Okay, we're up to Daf Ayin Dalan with Beis, the Mishnah. We're going to be discussing today all the Menachos. The physical. How do you exactly go ahead? The halachas of the Menachos vis-a-vis Matan Shemen, vis-a-vis Yitzika, Belila, and there are three Matan Shemen. Says the Mishnah. Kol Menachos Anasais Bekli. All Menachos that are made in a kli. We'll see what that means. But I'll give you a little spoiler alert. It means the macheshes and the machavas. Tuna sholish matanas shemen. They need three matanas shemen. Yitzika, ubelila, umatin shemen bekli. Now it's koidim lasiyasim before you make them. So there's three: Yitzika, belila, and matan shemen. And the Rashi points out, the Mefarish points out that the order over here is the wrong order. If you look at Rashi, the Mefarish, Yitzika, belila, matan shemen. Before you put the silas in, you would put oil. Then you put the flour. Then you put the shemen to be boilo. Okay, and this you would go ahead and do. So there's three. You put in fellas. You put in the shemen in the kli, then the silas, then you put in the shemen for belila, and then there was yitzika. As opposed to the afetana does not need yitzika. As we're going to see, the afetana doesn't need yitzika. So the minchas b'kli over here is the machvas and macheshes. They're both nikdash ayidei kli shares. The afetana is not Nigdash Ayde Klisharis because this mission is holding the opinion that the tanner that made the Afe tanner baked in the oven was not a Klisharis, fellas. So you never Klisharis. Right. So Chalois, Boileloid, Direi Rebbe, the Chachamim Silas. At which point in time of the process did the Belila take place? So guys, look at me. You had the kli, you put the shemen in, you put the silas in, everyone agrees with that. According to the chachamim, you now put in shemen and you boil it. You boil it then. When it's what? When it's silas. According to Rabbi, you're not boiling it then. You boil it after you fry it, right? After you fry it, then you would go ahead and be boiling. That's the lashon of the Mishnah. Chalais, boiling, Devei Rabbi. Rabbi says you boil them with the chalais. The Chachamim Oimrim, silas. Period. Put a period after the guys after the silas. Now, that was discussing the marcheshes, the machvas. Now we're going to be discussing the afe tanor. Good. When do you go ahead? There's no yitzika by afe sanor. So what do you do with the oil after you put it in the kli? After you put the silas in, what do you do? Hachales tunis belila. There are two types again of afe sanor. Chales and Rekikin. The chales, they need belila. You would go ahead and mix it in. Or Rekikin mishicha. The Rekikin, after they're baked, you would go ahead and you'd be moishech them. You would go ahead and take the oil and you would be literally anoint the Rekikin. Ketzad moishin, kimin ki. Like a kimin ki, we're going to see Bez Hashem in the Gemara what that means. Vashar nechel kahanim. And the rest is the kahanim. So just set up, guys. We mentioned four types of menachos. I'm sorry, my nose is so itchy. We mentioned four types of menachos. One, the minchas machvas. Two, the minchas macheshes, which had the same halacha, right? They both require belila. They both require yitzika and the matan shemen mekli. We discussed the afe saner, which requires two, the matan shemen mekli and belila, but not yitzika. Now, as to when belila is performed by the machvas and marcheshes, is a machlokes. The Rebbe says after it's fried, and according to the Chachamim, before it's fried, when it's silas. Regarding the afe sanor, what's the machlokes? Right? Regarding the afe sanor, the machlokes is well, not exactly. There's no machlokes. We didn't say it. The afe sanor is that you would do there's two types. One required belila and one required meshicha. The chalas required belila, and the Rekikim required something called meshicha. Okay, for the Gemara, we're going to need some psukim. Lamute mai. When it says tuna bekli, that they need all three guys, that they need, right, they need matana bekli, belila, and yitzika. That is if it's made in a kli. Lamute mai. Lamute minchas me'afe. This excludes the minchas ma'afe. That the minchas ma'afe. Look at the bottom places. Mute minchas ma'afe. Le mikri nasis bekli. Because sabar ain't tana mikadesh. The tana is not mikadesh it. Guys, the Tana is not Makadesh. We had earlier in the Masechta about the Shtei Lechem, the Tana is Makadesh, right? So if the Tana was Makadesh, you'd have a problem. That would be Lina, right? So therefore, they had to be baked on Shabbos. Okay, we would discuss that. So that's Lemute. When it says Bekli, it means Machvas Marcheshes, Lemeute, to exclude Me'afe. Tan Rabbanan. Okay, so let's see the Psukim. Baruch Hashem, all on one page, very easy. Pasuk Daled, V'chisakiv korban minchas me'afei saner, soles chalois matzois belulos b'shemen, u'mekiki matzos meshuchem b'shemen. So we saw in the mitzvah Mishnah, the chalois require belila, and the rekikim require meshicha. V'mincha al machvas korbanecha, soles belula b'shemen, matzah tiyeh. So by machvas, guys, it says that what? It needs belila. By machvas it says belila. Pasuk says pitim, you should put it into pieces. And you should pour on it oil minchahi. So by the mincha of the machvas, we see two halachas: belila and yitzika. Belila and yitzika. Good. The minchas marcheshes karbanecha, and if the minchas marcheshes is your carbon, soilis b'shemen teyase, soilis in shemen teyase it should be made. So this, fellas, from this pasuk, we learned the first halacha that the shemen has to go ahead and precede the soilis and the kli. One more time. The minchas marcheshes karbanecha, soilis b'shemen teyaseh. So you have to take the soilis and put it on the shemen. That's the first of it. So by minchas marcheshes, it says that. By machvas, it says belila and yitzika, correct? So now you have all three. Yes? Guys, you have all three. Belula, yitzika, and matan shemen b'kli. It says here karbanecha. It says here karbanecha. So now we have a gezerah shava between the machvas and the marcheshes. Let's see what we got. Amra Papa, Tan Rabbanan. The minchas machvas marcheshes karbanecha soilis b'shemen teyaseh. Melamed shetuna matan shemen b'kli. Right? We see that what? That you need from the macheshes, you would need to put the shemen in first. And it says karbanecha, and it says karbanecha by machvas and by macheshes. The gezerah shava by gezerah shava. Okay, so guys, it says karbanecha. Amid Aleph, makan matan shemen bekli, just like by macheshes. It says that you put the shemen in first. And it says karbanecha, afla halon, so too by the machvas, matan shemen bekli. Umala halam by the machvas. Yitziku belila, it says yitziku belila, and it says karbanecha. Afkan by the macheshes, yitziku belila. So you see, anything that's done bekli needs all three. Geshmak, guys, right? Geshmak. Anyone that needs all three, it makes bekli. The machvas and the macheshes, they all require three. From the macheshes, we know the first one, matan shemen bekli. From the machvas, we know yitzik and belila. And karbanecha creates the gezerah shava. Zeya geshmak. Says the Gemara Vaita. Chalas belula. It says chalas belula b'shemen. Divrei Rabbi b'chachamim mayim soilis. So guys, at which point in time does the belila take place? They both need belila. At which time does it take place? Says Rabbi, when it's chalas. Says the chachamim, when it's soilis. Tan Rabbanan, soilis belula. It says soilis belula. Where does it say that? Let's see. By the machvas, it says soilis belula, right, guys? Right in front of you. Soilis belula. Malamed, shebalulason soilis. It says soilis belula, guys. It's mashma. When does the belula take place? When it's soilis, when it's flour. Rabbi Omer, chales boilula. No, when they're chales. Shenemar, chales belulos. Pasik dalid. V'chisakev kmincha korban me'afei sanar. Soilis, chales matzos belula, chalois belula. It takes up the matzos. Chalois matzos belula. So when do you go ahead and make the belila? When it's matzos. Amruloi, the Chacham said to Rebbe, V'loi lachmei toida never behen chalois. By the lachmei toida guy, it says chalois, and it says belulas b'shemen. Guys, the lachmei toida is not listed over here. The lachmei toida are there are 40 lachmei toida, right? There's 4 types, 10 of each, and by each one, and it says over there, it says chalois, and it says belulas b'shemen. V'yefshel boilalon kashen chalois, and it's not possible to go ahead and say the belila is possible. Elasoilis. The Gemara is going to ask, how do you know? So, guys, outside. Says Rebbe, it's chalois. Says the Chachamim, it's what? It's soilus. It says by the machvas soilus belula. It says by the afei sanor belulas bashemen. Retorts the Chachamim to Rebbe. It says by the lachmei toida also belulas bashemen, chalois belulas bashemen, and it's no way in the world the belila there takes place when they're chalois. So just like over there it doesn't take place when they're chalois, who are then by the machvas and the macheshes it shouldn't be when they're chalois, rather soilus. And the Gemara will say, how do you know by the lachmei toida that it's not possible that what? Okay, now the Gemara just says exactly the mechanics like the Chachamim and the mechanics like Rebbe. Okay, so Ketzad, how exactly did you do this? Ketzad oisa, noisen shemen bekli, koidem lasiyasan. Next, v'noisna, and then you put the silas on. Then v'noisen shemen alecha, you put the shemen on. Uboilala, this is the chachamim, and you do the belila when it's in silas. V'lasha, guys. By the way, be aware you put water in. You had to put water in, right? Because again, if it's just shemen, it can't become chametz. Remember we said that mei peris can't make chametz, and shemen is mei peris. It's zayis. So there was, be aware, the Gemara doesn't discuss it, but there was water there. They put a little poishrin, remember they put in lukewarm water. So that had to be in earlier. Guys, you got good? Again, it's not discussed there, but be aware of it. For lasha, they would go ahead and knead it, for ofa and bake it, u'poisasa, and then they would put it into pieces. We'll see on the other base exactly what they did. For noisn la shemen, and then they put the shemen on. That's yitzika. Then the kaimitz. They did the kaimitz. So that's the order. That's the mechanical order, fellas. You put shemen, soilis, belula bashemen, fried it, and then you put the kind of mitzvah yitzika. You put more oil on it. Rabbi Omer chalis boilula. No, the belila was done when they were chalis. Shenemar chalis belulas bashemen. Ketzad oisa noisin shemen bekli koid masiyasan. For noisna, they put the flour in. For lasha, they kneaded it. For oifa, they baked it. Upoisa, they put it into pieces. For noisala shemen, then they put shemen on it. Ubailala, they were kind of mitzvah belila. The chayz of noisala shemen, the second time they put the shemen on, and that's the mitzvah of yitzika. For the kaimitz, they did the kaimitz. Good. That's the according to Rabbi. Now, Efshe de kamalei rabbanon leRebbi maihi. When the Chachamim retorted to Rebbe, it says chalois belulois by lachmei toida, and over there it's not possible to say what, fellas? It's not possible to say that the chalois were boiled with shemen. It's not possible. What does that mean? How do you know it's not possible? Oh, you guys, look at me. There were 3 types of chalois that were like wafers, and then there was chalois that was chametz. This is lachmei toida. There was chatzi loig, a revius on one and a revius on the other. There's no way one revius would go ahead and do 10 loigin, 10 chalas. So if there's no way they could do 10 chalas, obviously it says chalas belulois, and you see it's not possible over there. Who adin by the machvas. So that's the efshar over here. I just gave you I foreshadowed you the Gemara. Says the Gemara. What do you mean efshar? Amar Reb Shmuel bar Yitzchak revius shemen he. This revius is shemen for the chalos. Heich mischalekas the kama chalas. How can it possibly go ahead and be divided up to 10 chalas? Ella, just like over there, it has to be that the boil b'sailes. So too over here, by what? So too over here, by the mincha machvas macheshes, it had to be by silas and not by what? By chala. Guys, good? Okay, that's the maskana. That's the end of that. Now, we turn our attention to the afei sanor. Okay, Machloikas Rebbe Nechachamim was by where? By the machvas and macheshes. The afei sanor did not need yitzika. Guys, it only needed matan shemen bekli and belila. It did not need yitzika. Because where do you learn yitzika from? For the karmenecha. and that's only to the macheshes. Hachales tunis belila v'rakikim meshicha. The two types of avesanor, right, require one requires belila, the other meshicha. Tan rabbanan chales belulois v'loy rakikim belulin. The chales v'baylim v'loy rakikim belulin. Okay, so in other words, this is you take the pasuk literally. Pasuk dalid. V'chisakav minchas me'ach vaysanor soilis chales matzos belulois. The chales are belulois b'shemen. Rakikim matzos mishuchim b'shamen. So they were balul and the rakikim were mishuchim. Okay, it says it openly in the pasuk, right? It says openly in the pasuk what they did. Now you might think that each one needs each one. We're going to go back and forth. It says
Thank God I'm checking my pocketbook. Thank God. I opened up the check.
I know that voice, and I muted it. Tanrabanan, chalas belulas v'levikikim belulin. Sheyachal. I would think that what they both need. V'leidinhu. Uma chalas shein tunas meshicha tunas belila. Rekikin shen tunas meshicha in addition tunas belila. Tamad loima chalas belulas v'levikikim belulin. Just after the chalas, not the rekikin. Rekikim meshuchim v'lechalas meshucha. Sheyachal. V'leidinhu. Uma rekikin shein tunas belila tunas meshicha. Chalas tunas belila in addition tunas meshicha. Tamad loima rekikim meshuchim v'lechalas meshuchais. My Talmud, where's the limud? No, it's how do you know Ein Achinami, fellas? How do you know that they don't need both? Guys, they're in the same pasuk. They're juxtaposed to each other. I can make a hekesh and say, just like this one needs this one needs this, just like this one needs this one this. Says the Gemara, my Talmud, Amarava, like lishmat v'lichtayv chalas meshuchas v'kim belulim. Anytime, often when it goes in and brings in, it always says, guys, why would you have to repeat it? Chalas meshuchin, rekikim meshuchin, chalas belulas. Why does it always repeat it? It repeats it often to teach you that what? Asay daf zayin. Dafka chalas belulas, dafka meshuchin, dafka rekikin meshuchin. Okay. So yotzim midvarenu.
So if you mark, if it wouldn't be good, and on any of these, you had if let's say you mark, if you did the yitzika before the beshicha, that type of the belula, if you did it, it would be no good.
How could you do that?
I'm saying, let's say you did.
No, I'm saying physically, how could you do that?
I'm
asking you. Listen, Hesh, I'm answering you. Yitzika would mean you pour it in. So you pour it in, and what? And if you don't do belila, what did you do?
Then so let's say you did you did the belila, then you did the yitzika.
That's what you're supposed to do.
But let's say you reverse one of the steps.
How are you reversing it? Yitzika, you're pouring it in, and then what?
Let's say a guy poured in. He didn't put the silas in. He poured oil in before.
In answer to your question, right off the top of my head, I don't know. Whether it's ma'akev, I would assume it is. There's a mitzvah. Each one is a separate mitzvah. Whether it's right now, maybe the Gemara will discuss it. But right now, I don't know the answer to your question.
Okay.
Says the Gemara. So now there's a din of Mashicha by the Rekikin. How exactly is that done? Kate said Moishkin kimin ki v'ashar nechal, and the rest is eaten by the Kahanim. Again, our Mishnah says, what do you do? You Moishich kimin ki, and you give it to the rest of the oil goes to the Kahanim. My kimin ki, Rav Kahana kimin ki yavani, like a Greek key. Says Taisvis, this is going to be the blog. This is classic off the. I know my brother-in-law. Kimin ki, Sire bikuntris. Rashi goes ahead as Mitzayir. Kimin tes. Upirushe bechumish, pirish gimel. And right here he says a tes. In Chumash he says a gimel. V'yesh mefarshim kimin nun. Oy kimin chaf. Ube'orich perish the Tanya bekrisis. Hamalachim moishchim kimin nezer. The malachim they would make like a crown. When they were moish the chachamim, they did like a crown. V'kahanim kimin ki yavanis. And the kahanim when they were moish them, they made like a ki yavanis. Perish yatzak shemen al roish Aaron. They poured roish on Aaron's head. It poured on his head and it's separated. So you know what? It looks like a shtickle, like a gimel. Look, guys, look like this. It would look something like this. You'd have you, and then like this. Okay, either way, we don't know what it looks like. You have a bunch of different explanations, right? The bottom line is take your pick. But the point is, I think they only did that amount, and then they gave the rest to the Kahanim. La Fuke, the next opinion. La Fuke, the next opinion. What's the next opinion? Let's see. My coming up, Tanrabanan, Minchas Haba Mertzachales Mertzurkikin. Okay, who holds that? Come on, guys. There's 10. One person holds 11. Who's the person who holds 11? Rav Shimon. What does Rav Shimon say? By the Afe Saner, there's three possibilities. All Chalais, or all Rakikin, or half and half. 5 and 5. Remember, this is Machlokes. Or 5 and 5. That was the Machlokes. Or 5 and 5. Yes? That was the Machlokes. So now, Mincha Haba, you have a Mincha that's coming. Mertze Chalais and Mertze Rakikin, half and half. Maybe like Shemen, you bring a like, and you divide it up. Chetzi v'chalais v'chetzi l'rakikin. V'chalais boilalan, or rakikin mushachan. U'moishech es harakik al pnei kula. Then you would go ahead, and the half, you would go ahead and anoint the kli, the al pnei kulan. You know, it's not like a key. You would do the whole face. So he argues on that point. You said key. You do it like a what? Like a Greek letter. He's saying you don't do like a letter. You just pour it on the whole face of the rekik. V'shara shemen machzira l'chalais. And the rest of the shemen, as opposed to giving it to kahanim, you would go ahead and put it in the chalais. That's this Tanakama. This is not us. They guys argue in 2 points. One, you don't do Mashiach like a key, you do the whole thing. And 2, it doesn't go to the Kahanim. The rest is poured used for the Chalais. Rav Shimon ben Yehuda Mishum Rav Shimon Aimer, Moshe Kimin Ki, V'shara Shemin Nechol Kahanim. So Rav Shimon's the Tana of Mishnah. This is our opinion, right? Okay. Tanya Idach, another Brisa. Rekikin Haboyim if they atzmon. Rekikim that come by themselves. Maybe, in other words, not half and half. Maybe like Shemen, U'moishchin v'chayzim U'moishchin, Achi Yikalag Kol Shemen Shebeloig. You would go ahead, and if you had these 10 Rekikim, you would continuously go ahead and put on the Shemen until it's all absorbed in the Chalais. Reb Shimon ben Yehuda Oimer Mishum Reb Shimon, Moishin Kimin Ki V'shar Shemen Nechal Kahanim. Whether you go bring in half and half like Reb Shimon, or you're bringing all 10, you're going to be Moishech Kimin Kli and give the rest to the Kahanim. So you have a few machlokes in the matter. Let's summarize. By the Afe Sanor, right? By the Afe Sanor, the Chalais Awad are Belula, and the Rekikim Awad are Meshuchin. In Meshuchin himself, we have a machlokes. Tanav Mishnah says that what, and that's where Shimon, your Moishech Kimin Kli, and the leftover goes to the Kahanim, right? And whether, guys, this is whether you bring 5 and 5, or whether you bring all 10 Rekikin. And the other opinion of the other Tana is that if you bring 5, you go ahead and you bring Moishech al Pnei Kula, and the rest goes to the Chalais. If you bring Rakik, all 10, then you constantly go ahead and anoint it until you used up all the oil. If Shimon says, no, even by 10, you're going to go ahead and be Moishech and Kli and give the rest to the Kahanim. That's the din, the Afesana. So this is says the Mishnah, Kol Menachos Hanasais Bekli, Tunas Psita. They all need Psita. So where do we learn a Psita from? From Afe Sano. I'm sorry, you learn that from Machvas. The Minchas Al Machvas Karbenechas Soilus Belul B'Shemen Matzatiyah. Guys, Posleis Asa Pitim. You crumble it, you put it into pieces. V'yitzakto la shamen. And you pour on it oil minchahi. Guys, this pasuk we're going to darshan every single letter. Pasuk zapitim v'yitzakto l'shemen minchahi. Every single word, I should say. Okay, pasuk, you make it and put on an oil minchahi. Okay, that's the pasuk. And Okay. Where is everybody? There you are. Hi, Simcha, I'm saying share. Yeah. Okay. The mute mai. What does this come to exclude? Well, minchas that anasis bekli tuna psita. So now, guys, it's not going to be afe sanor. Amra papa mute shtei lechem v'lechem aponim. It goes ahead. It's to include the shtei lechem and the lechem aponim. So when it comes to psita, side the mincha machvas, side the mincha marcheshes, side the chalois of the afe sanor, side the rakikin of afe sanor require psita. Tanrabanan, pasas is a pitim, mincha, when it says the word mincha, the rabbis call menachos the psita. All the menachos require what? All the menachos, they require this breaking it up into pieces. Yachal shani marba av shtei lechem lechem aponim. So I might think that what the lechem aponim is also included. I might think the lechem aponim is also included. Talmud leima oisa, poises oisa it, and not the lechem aponim, and not the shtei lechem. V'yitzakta shemen mincha. The rabbis call menachos the yitzika, that all the menachos need yitzika. Yachal shani marba af minchas ma'afe. I might think the minchas me'afe also needs yitzika. Talmud leima aleha. It says aleha, aleha shemen. I would think only the chalas don't need yitzika, but rakikin do. Talmud leimar he. So you have guys, you have two miyutim, aleha and he, one to exclude the chalas, one to exclude the rakikin. My Talmuda to be mitzi me'afe sanadi yitzika, aim elahoitzi minchas kahanim. Fellas, why did you opt to say the aleha and the he is to exclude the afesaner, the chalis and the rekikin from yitzika? Maybe it's just the minchas kahanim, the one that is totally burnt. But einachinami, you would need yitzika by the afesaner and by the two afesaner. Amid beis amarabba ezu davar shetzarach shnei miyutim. Which of all the kabbanis would need two miyutim? It's only the afesaner. Guys, we have two miyutim: aleha and he. Aleha and he. We have two miyutim, correct? I saw took care of the shtei lechem and lechem upon him. Allah and he. If it's minchas kayin, it's only one. But if it's afei saner, it's chalas v'kikin. Memela makes sense. If I have two miyutim, it must be to ma'ayit the carbon that has two types, the chalas and the v'kikin. Haviyom is the minchas mi'afei. So it comes out again. The afei does not need yitzika. The afei does not need yitzika. Only minchas machavas, but they do need belila. And according to and this Mashiach, Belila is by the Chalois, and the Mashiach is by the Rekikin. Now, how do you do Psita? You just told me that everyone needs Psita, that Machvas, Marcheshes, Afisana need Psita. How do you do Psita? So in your mind right away, you said Psita, you crumbled it up into little pieces. That would not be correct. That would not be correct. According to one opinion, maybe, but according to most, not. Minchas Yisrael, the Mincha of Yisrael, which requires Kamitza, and the rest is going to Kahanim. Koipel Echad L'Shnayim, you would fold up. Guys, you made it into 10 wafers. 10, each one was made into 10. Guys, very important. Before they did any of this, it was all 10. So, but you had 10, in the Machmas, you had 10 little loaves, and you had 10 little loaves in the Marcheshes. So those 10 little loaves now you can be folding up. Each one separately. Good? Each one separately. So therefore, you would take each one separately, and you would kaifel echad l'shnayim, l'shnayim la'arba. First you would divide it into 2, and then you divide it into 4. So they really are little pieces, fellas, correct? Again, because they're 10, and now you're taking each 10 and making them into quarters. You're dividing it up, umavdil, and then you separate them. Minchas kahanim kaifel echad l'shnayim, l'shnayim la'arba, ve'enim avdil, but you won't separate them, you just burn them. Minchas koyin Mashiach, that's the minchas chavitim, lahoyim mekafla, they didn't go ahead and fold it all. Rabbi Shimon Aimer, minchas kahana, minchas koyin Mashiach, aim behem psita. They didn't fold them at all. Mifnei she'ein bem kamitza, because there was no kamitza. V'chol she'ein ba kamitza ein bem psita. And any carbon that did not require kamitza did not require psita, putting them to smaller pieces. V'kulan poisin b'kazayis. Now, what's this going on? V'kulan poisin es kazayis. Seems to be a machlokes. Let's see Rashi. That means below, guys. Rashi below. Poisin kazesim, besitas the dakois kazayis. Rav Shimon Kamar, ubitarte pligi. This is Rav Shimon, who argues in two things. What do you mean he's arguing in two things? One, he argued regarding the Minchas Kahanim, who said you don't have to fold it at all. According to the Tanakama, you fold it into two and you didn't separate. According to Rav Shimon, you didn't fold it at all. And secondly, he argues, and when you do psitim, you do psitim that they should be the size of a kazayas, not 1, 2, like just folded it twice, 2 to 4, but you went ahead and make sure they were the size what of a kazayas. Good. So they argue in two things. Got the two things. The first one, Koy Mashiach. He says you don't do it at all. Tanakama says you divide it into 4, but you don't break it up. And the second thing is, he says when you do divide it, he says you break it up into kasesim, not 4 pieces. Tanrabanan, pasais yachal lishnayim. It says pasais. I would think just the 2. Tamud loymar pitim. Ipitim yachal yasena pirurin. I might think you make them into crumbs. Tamud loymar oisa paisa pitim oisa lipsitim v'loy psita lipsitim. The one that's 2 you fold, but the one that's what's 4 you don't fold. In other words, the one that already is folded, you fold again, but to fold the one that was folded twice, that you don't do anymore. Okay, Tzad. Minchis Yisrael koifla echad l'shnayim, u'shnayim la'arba, u'mavdil, and then you break it up. Minchis kahanim, the koyim Mashiach, hayim kapla. In other words, if you look at the Mishnah, guys, it said Minchas kahanim, koifel echad l'shnayim, u'shnayim la'arba, ve'in mavdil, Minchas koyim Mashiach, hayim kapla. You have a steer minei ubei, fellas. It says what? It says Minchas kahanim koif l'shnayim and Minchas koyim Mashiach loyam kaflo. And now you're telling me that what? The Minchas kahanim you did fold. Minchas koyim Mashiach you did fold. How can you tell me Minchas koyim gadol you fold? It says you don't. Amarabba einam kaflo arba kaflo shnayim. That's what it means. When it says that you don't fold it doesn't mean you don't fold it. It means you don't fold it into 4, but you do fold it into 2. And then you're going to burn it. You're not going to do a kamitza, you're going to burn it. Reb Shimon, Minchas Kahana and Minchas Koyim Mashiach, Ein Ben Psita, you wouldn't go ahead and fold them at all. That's he argues, and then he argues about Kazayas. Rabbi Yosef, this share of Kazayas. Hi Chavitza. Chavitza seems to be some kind of the cooked food that you had cooked bread in it. It's like you had cooked bread. The Isbei Pirurin, Kazayas, that from this cooked bread, if you have separate pieces of Kazayas, you're going to make a bracha, hamaitzilechem in aretz. Ilesba perurin kazayis, and if you don't have, so this cooked thing, this cooked cake, this cooked bread, excuse me. If you have a kazayis, you're going to make a maitzi. If you don't, you're going to go ahead and make a what? You're going to make a mezainis. I'm Rabbi Yosef. How do I know? This is Tanya. Now, this is a kohen who's doing it for the first time of the year. The kohen is bringing the mincha in Yerushalayim for the first time that year. You make a bracha of shechianu. Not lon la'ochlan. That's why it says in Yerushalayim. He's in the base of Mikdash. If he took it to eat, you make a maitzi. V'tanan v'kula psita b'kazayis. All the psita was in the kazayis. I'm Mishnah. Amle Abaya, well, the Tana the baby Shmuel Dama, the Farchin Eshem Achzir and the Sultan. The baby Shmuel is what you always thought, that you crumble it up into pieces. Like you always thought that the mincha was crumbled up into small pieces. That's the Tana of Rabbi Shmuel. That's the Yeshiva Rabbi Shmuel. So according to them, that you crumbled up into little pieces, you're going to tell me you don't make a maitzi. If you need the share of a kazayas to make a maitzi, guys, if you need the share of a kazayas to make a maitzi, so light Rabbi Shmuel that you're crumbling up into small pieces, mean you're not going to make a maitzi. You don't make a maitzi. Vatanya likton mikulon kazayas. If you malak it from all in a kazayas, v'achlu and you eat it. Im chametzu. So obviously, it must be speaking about Pesach. If you eat it, yoinish karis. Im matzahi, adam yotzim nechavasli b'Pesach. Now, to be yotzi yichiv on Pesach, I assume you have to make a motzi, right? And nonetheless, you're telling me that what? That you need to share of a kazayas. So how can you tell me before that what? That small pieces, you can't. Look at Rashi, guys. Look at Rashi. Likta mikulan, right before the biggest wide line in the bottom. Likta mikulan, apsitim shem bem kazayas koi. It's going on the psitim that don't have a kazayas. So if you're locked on from all these small pieces that don't have a kazayas, v'lo yisparish lan heicha, says Rashi, I don't know what this is going on. But you can't say it's going on menachos, the ketani vim chametzu, because it says if it's chametz, the chol menachos boyas matzah. Guys, the only thing that comes chametz is the lachmei toida, or the chalas the lachmei toida, and the shtelechem. So l'chayra, it says over here lochna mikulan. If you have chametz there, then you can be chayiv on Pesach. You're going to be chayiv karis. So obviously, it can't be going menachos. But what do we need for, guys? We see over here that even when it's less than a kazayas, right? Even lokta mikulan, it's less than a kazayas. You're going to make a bracha. What? You're going to make hamaitzi, which is kasha, because you said before that it has to be the share of kazayas. Hachamayaskinan b'she'ir. You clumped it together, so that's why you have the share kazayas. Separately, you're not, but you clumped it together, so that's why. Yihachi hainu diktani Allah v'sha'achlan b'chtei achilas pras v'im she'ir son sha'achlu b'boy v'hu sha'achlon, you ate them k'dei achilas pras. According to you, that's clumped together. It should say sha'achloi, you ate it. If you're telling me it's one entity, it's one piece, it should say achloi. It says achlon. So Ella, so we have a kasha. L'chayra, he's told me that it has to be a kazayas. Like here it's less than a kazayas, and you're making a maitzi. Guys, taket is less than a kazayas, but you know what? You broke it off from a large piece. Since you have this big challah, and this challah is a maitzi, if you break off a small piece, even less than a kazayas, agav the tata, you're going to make a maitzi. Agav the big tata, you're going to make a maitzi. Says Rashi. B'mama lechem gadol, pirurim pachas mikazayish, shepasas amilechem gadol, that you crumbled from a larger piece. Hein chashuvos agav aviem. The chashuv because of the tata. The chipon havi belechem yosim mikazayis. Because when you did the psita, there was more than a kazayis. Guys, when you cut it off the bread, right? The bread itself was a kazayis. So therefore, even though this is less, agav that you're going to make a moitzi. So therefore, ein achinami. For the share of achila, you need a moitzi, right? And this over here, the reason why this is less than a kazayis, a moitzi, agav the big piece. My havi Allah, Rav Sheshes Zama afili pirurin shema kazayis, Amar Rava, even pirurin shema kazayis, you're going to make a moitzi. The ikka teresa de nama alayu, provided you have the tayar, it has the appearance of bread. So even less than a kazayis have the appearance of bread, you're going to make a moitzi on it. So Yotzim Ravenu in today's share is we have different opinions of exactly what the mincha, the shemen, the kli, machvas and macheshes, which came first. Now you have three things. You have the sin shemen bekli, you have belila and yitzika. Which one, when does belila take place? Says the Chachamim, takes place when it's silas. Says Rabbi, it takes place when it's chatlis. By the Afei Sanor, there is no yitzika. And then you do yitzika afterwards, you would pour oil on it. The Afei Tana does not require yitzika, doesn't require yitzika, but it requires belila for the chalos and meshicha for the what? For the rekikin. We have machloikis exactly. What you did meshicha. Was it kimin ki, or did you do it al pnei kula? Machloikis, what did you do with the extra oil? Did you throw it in the chalos or give it to the kahanim? Okay, our Mishnah said kimin ki, and you give it to the kahanim. And psitim, they would go ahead. You would fold it. You'd fold it once. You'd fold it twice. This is by the macheshes and the afei sanor. So, and then you'd break it, and that you would go ahead and use. Says Rav Shimon on that you have make sure to break it to the share of kazayas, that each piece should be the share of kazayas. By the kohen Mashiach, where you folded it twice, but you didn't break it. But by the kohen's minchas kohen, by the kohen Mashiach, seems to be a machloikis whether you do it twice or you don't do it at all. Okay. Maybe do it twice. Do it twice. Okay, B'ez Hashem. We'll try to get a share in the